Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UU congregation of Salem. I'm Reverend Mark Gallagher, filling in for the Reverend Rickett Davis. It's so good to be here in this community of love, appreciation, and aspiration. You make it so by bringing your love, appreciation, and aspiration. I hope that your experience here this morning gives you encouragement one way or another on your journey through life.
Our gathering hymn this morning is "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." It's number 16 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit.
Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Said a scarecrow swinging on a pole to a blackbird sitting on a fence. Oh, the Lord gave me a soul, but forgot to give me common sense. If I had an ounce of common sense, I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching. If I only had a brain, I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain. With the thoughts I'd be thinking, I could be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. Oh, I could tell you why the ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I'd never thunk before, and then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nuffin, my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain. And perhaps I'd deserve you and be even worthier of you if I only had a brain.
Thank you, Laura and Kit. That was great. I would like to invite any families, if they feel the need to have a little bit more space, our cozy corner in the fellowship hall is available. You can hear the service and watch. So just to let you know, you go out the doors to the left and it's in the deep corner. Okay. Now, to stimulate your imaginations, I share these words from Carolyn Toll. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form in nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immerse your senses in this safe place. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey as you ascend the shaft toward wider light, turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets. Stored within is the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile, yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. We, too, shimmer with expectation, exuding our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable, still we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light, at once fragile and rooted. Please join together in speaking our affirmation. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for our partner church in Šimenfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And our third chalice is for our children and youth in religious education and all around the world. Let us sing the flame into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Hello and welcome to the Time for All Ages portion of the service. I'd like to invite all the children to come down now. And if you guys can gather right here so the people at home can see you on the cameras, because they like that. Hi guys, welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see all of you here today. There's a bunch. Hey you guys, if y'all can gather over this way just a little bit more. Hi Locke, hi Camelia, I haven't seen you guys in a while. Welcome. Well, today, everyone, we're going to be learning about the 7th principle and the interdependent web of being, the fun way. Reverend Rick helped me, and we built a massive spider web outside for us to play a game called Winter's Web in, and we're going to do a craft of stick, looms, and weaving, okay, to learn about spiders. And I also want to read you this story called Mother Spider. Really loud today. So, it was a beautiful day in midsummer. The meadow was alive with busy little creatures astir in the bright sunlight. A long line of ants came crawling down the path, carrying food to their home under the elm tree. And an old toad came hopping down through the grass, blinking in the warm sun. Just a little higher up, the bees were droning drowsily as they flew from flower to flower, and above them all, a robin was calling to his mate. Pretty soon, Mrs. Spider came down the path. She seemed to be in a great hurry. She looked neither to the right nor to the left, but kept straight ahead, holding tightly to a little white bag, which she carried in her mouth. She was just rushing past Mr. Toad when a big black beetle came bumping by, stumbling against Mrs. Spider and knocking the bag out of her mouth. In an instant, Mrs. Spider pounced down upon him, and though he was so much bigger than she, he tumbled onto his back. And while he was trying to kick himself right side up once more, Mrs. Spider made a quick little dash, took up her bag, and scuttled off through the grass. Well, I never, said Grasshopper Green, who was playing seesaw on a blade of grass. No, nor I, grumbled Mr. Beetle as he wriggled back to his feet. I didn't want her bag. She needn't have made such a fuss. Well, she must have had something very fine in that bag, said Grasshopper Green, for she was so frightened when she dropped it. I wonder what it was. And then he balanced himself on a grass blade until a stray breeze blew him off, and then he straightaway forgot about Mrs. Spider altogether. But 2 weeks after this, Grasshopper Green started out for a little exercise before breakfast, and just as he reached the edge of the brook, he saw Mrs. Spider coming towards him. She was moving quite slowly and no longer carried the little white bag. As she came nearer, he could see that she had something on her back. Good morning, neighbor, called Grasshopper Green. Can I help you carry your things? Oh, thank you, she said, but they wouldn't stay with you, even if they could stay on while you give such great jumps. They, said Grasshopper Green, and then as he came nearer, he saw that the little things on Mrs. Spider's back were wee little baby spiders. Aren't they pretty children? She said proudly. I was so afraid that something would happen to my eggs that I never once let go of the bag, except when that clumsy Mr. Beetle knocked it out of my mouth. Oh ho, said Grasshopper Green, so that's what frightened you so. Your bag was full of eggs, and now you're going to carry all of these little children on your back. Doesn't that tire you dreadfully? I don't mind a bit, said Mrs. Spider, if only the children are well and safe. In a little while, you know, they'll be able to run about by themselves, and then we shall be so happy here in the meadow grass. Oh, it's well worth the trouble, neighbor Grasshopper. Yes, said Grasshopper Green. I have a dozen wee boys myself at home, and that reminds me it's time to go home to breakfast. Goodbye, neighbor. I hope the children will soon be running about with you. You are certainly taking good care of them. Goodbye. Then home he went, and proud, happy Mrs. Spider went on her way to hunt for breakfast for the babies she loved so well. Thanks be, and may all beings be happy. Now you guys ready to go play? Yay. Okay, so we're going to line up. No, because the adults are going to do the love arch for us, okay? So everybody line up at the front here. Don't go through till they start to build the love arch. Oh.
Wherever you walk, walk in love. Wherever you walk, walk in peace. Wherever you walk, walk in beauty all around you. Our hearts go with you.
Each week, one of the things we do here is practice exercising our capacity for compassion. So I invite you now to bring to mind someone that you know who is in some sort of distress, someone suffering or struggling in some way. Bring them into your mind. Allow them into your heart. And consider the specific nature of their suffering. What is their distress? In their distress, regard them with mercy and goodwill. in your imagination, picture loving kindness flowing from you to them. Wish them relief from their particular hardship or distress. And as I sweep my hand across the room, you're invited to speak the name of the someone that you are holding in compassion this morning. Quinn. We also practice awakening the gratitude in our hearts. So I invite you now to contemplate some of the things in your life that do truly merit gratitude, especially maybe things that you often don't notice. And savor these things in your mind for a moment. Invite a deep and genuine appreciation into your heart. And you're invited to call out in a couple of words something for which you are feeling gratitude this morning.
We have one joy today, and it is ours, mine and Bob's. And we just want to wish Laurelyn and Johnny, our children, happy 11th anniversary. One of the ways we nurture community is by sharing our joys and concerns with the congregation, and as I did. But you may do this online by going to the UUC home page and clicking on worship, and then you'll see joys and concerns, and you can read what is there and type in your own. So please make use of that. Thank you.
Our pastoral hymn today is Voice Still and Small. It's number 391 in the gray hymnal. You may remain seated.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we remain singing, calling my
Joseph Campbell wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, where he studied the universal myth of the hero's inevitable journey of challenge. Here is one of his observations, and I quote, "The godly powers dangerously sought and won are revealed to have been within the heart of the hero all the time. He is the king's son who has come to know who he is. He is God's child who has learned to know how much that title means."
Sometimes when I need to give a short description of Unitarian Universalism, I say that we have a very expansive view of the scriptures. Most religions have specific scriptures, an official body of literature in which they find revealed deep truth about reality and our place in it. For Christians, that's the Bible. For Muslims, it's the Quran. Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, and others all have their particular written collections of story, poetry, and instruction to shape their worldview and guide their spiritual reflections. Originally, we Unitarians and Universalists, as liberal Christian movements, held the Bible as our authoritative source. It was our distinctive approaches to the Bible and our distinctive interpretations of it which distinguished us from other Christian groups. Our first loyalty was to truth and goodness, not the Bible or traditional teachings. For early Unitarians and Universalists, it was that the Bible was valuable because it revealed important truths, not that our notions of truth had to be conformed to what could be found in the Bible. For us, if the Bible says things that seem untrue or unwise or not good, well, those things can be put aside in favor of more fruitful sources. In time, naturally, we found that sources other than the Bible also revealed deep truths. Other religious scriptures, certainly, but also secular literature, the arts, and scientific inquiry, as well as our direct observation and lived experience. So whereas most religious scriptures are fixed and closed, our scriptures are open. So for the inside skinny on reality and our place in it, we look not just to one book or to one small set of books, but to all of life. One relatively new type of scriptural source is the motion picture. Great stories, characters, archetypal realms, and images come to us through film. Now, just as most printed literature doesn't reveal much in the way of deep truth, so most movies also do not. But some do. And not just by what they say about reality, but by the response that they evoke in our being. Now, when it comes to reflecting on film scripture in community, there is a problem. Showing a 2-hour movie in place of a reading kind of blows the Sunday morning schedule. And in lieu of showing the film, we must expect that most people have not already seen the film that you're referring to, with perhaps one exception: The Wizard of Oz. According to the Library of Congress, more people have seen The Wizard of Oz than any other film. Just a quick check. Raise your hand if you have seen The Wizard of Oz. Okay, not absolutely everybody. Raise your hand if you have seen it more than 3 times. Okay, thank you. The film, released in 1939, derived from a book of the same name by Frank Baum, which was published in 1900. While it is a message movie, and a rather blatant one at that, it appeals across the generations, bears repeated viewings, and endures well over decades of changing fashion. I suppose that's in part because the message is so enduringly true, and because it operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On one level, the message is be content with the simple things in life, which is good advice, I think. At the same time, it's about the journey we each must undertake to come home to ourselves, to claim and embrace our latent capacities, and to live our authentic life. The good-hearted Kansas farm girl, Dorothy, is in a tizzy because her priggish neighbor, Elmira Gulch, is threatening to take away her beloved dog, Toto. Her Auntie Em, absorbed in farm work, suggests that she find herself a place where she can't get into any trouble. Dorothy gazes up to the clouds and wonders if there might be a place where there isn't any trouble. Not a place you can get to by a boat or a train, she says. It's far, far away, beyond the moon, beyond the rain, somewhere over the rainbow. Dorothy's singing reverie about being free of worldly troubles is surely one of the great moments in all of film. Child, adult, who does not know that feeling? If only these worries and woes could be magically left behind and life was pleasant and easy. Oh, right? This yearning comes out of distress, but it is hopeful. There's a sense that maybe there is such a place. But what kind of place is it? Dorothy runs away with her dog Toto, trying to escape her troubles. But then, thinking that her Auntie Em has fallen ill, she rushes home. And as she does so, Dorothy's inner turmoil is mirrored in the outside world. A tornado descends, and the prairie farm is thrown into chaos as the winds batter around. While the rest of her family has taken shelter in the underground storm shelter, Dorothy is in the farmhouse, and it's struck by the twister and lifted up into the air, carried away. And if you've seen the movie, can you remember that scene where she's inside the house looking out the window, and there are all the farm animals and farm implements and people of the area flying around in the air? After a while, the house crashes down, and Dorothy finds herself in the faraway land of Oz. And then she embarks on an odyssey of the spirit, a hero's journey home, to a home she never really knew. To help her on that journey, she's given a pair of ruby slippers, which are said to have some unknown great power. And she's advised by Glinda, the good witch of the north, to go and see the Wizard of Oz. The wizard, Glinda says, will be able to help her get home. To get to the Emerald City over which the wizard presides, she need only follow the yellow brick road. And so she embarks, and along the way she is joined by various companions who, like herself, are yearning for some essential thing which they feel they are missing. Scarecrow wishes he was smart and hopes the wizard will give him a brain. The Tin Man complains of being unable to feel emotions and hopes the wizard will give him a heart. The Cowardly Lion is ashamed that although a lion, in reality he is often fearful, and he hopes the wizard will give him courage. But the Wicked Witch of the West has it in for Dorothy and tries to prevent them all from ever reaching the wizard. After some mishaps and struggles, they make it through and are granted an audience with the wizard. Trembling with fear and awe, they pass through a series of enormous doors into the hall of the wizard. The wizard presents a very intimidating visage, a giant floating face with rising columns of steam and flame, and a booming voice that bellows, "I am Oz, the great and powerful. Who are you?" That great, essential spiritual question. Who are you, really? Who are you? Trembling, they make their requests of the wizard, and he says he intends to grant them. But first, he says they must prove themselves worthy by performing one simple task. They must bring him the broomstick of the Wicked Witch of the West, which is, of course, a very dangerous and difficult task. Together they set off on their audacious mission, but along the way the Wicked Witch captures Dorothy and Toto and locks them away in her castle. Toto escapes, though, and leads the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion to the castle to come to Dorothy's aid. In rescuing Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion display intelligence, courage, and emotion in abundance, yet they still suppose themselves to be lacking those very qualities. In the scramble, they accidentally throw water on the Wicked Witch, and to their surprise, it causes her to melt away. She's gone. So having confronted their fearsome, evil nemesis and found her to be quite insubstantial, they bring the broomstick to the wizard. He wasn't expecting that. The great and powerful Oz bellows and spews steam and fire and tries to put them off until tomorrow, by when presumably he will have come up with an even more preposterous assignment. But now, emboldened by their recent adventure, Dorothy and her friends are not trembling. They stand up to him and press their case. And just at this point, the little dog Toto, entirely unimpressed by all these pyrotechnics, pulls back the curtain, and everybody sees a man in a booth frantically manipulating levers and knobs and bellowing into a microphone. When he notices he's being exposed, he commands, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." But they can see it's him saying it. But they do pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And it's apparent that the great and powerful Oz is really just an ordinary, bungling, and vulnerable man, putting on a show to impress the world. And they are outraged. Dorothy says, "You are a very bad man." And he says, "No, I'm a very good man. I'm just a very bad wizard." He admits he has no magical powers to grant their wishes, but proceeds to point out that they already have what they desire. He gives them what he can give them, which are a diploma, a medal, and a testimonial as tokens of their brains, courage, and heart. It turns out that the wizard is from Kansas, like Dorothy is, and he's just about to take her back there, but ever the bungler, he accidentally floats away in his hot air balloon and leaves her behind. Just as Dorothy's last hope of getting home sails away, Glinda, the good witch of the north, appears, and Dorothy begs her for help. Glinda says, "You don't need to be helped any longer. You've always had the power to go back to Kansas." Scarecrow says, "Why didn't you tell her before?" Glinda says, "Because she wouldn't have believed me. She had to learn it for herself. What have you learned, Dorothy?" Dorothy says, "If I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any farther than my own backyard. Is that it?" Glinda says, "That's all it is." And Scarecrow says, "That's so simple. I should have thought of it in my brain." Tin Man says, "I should have felt it in my heart." Glinda says, "No, she had to learn it for herself. Now those ruby slippers will take you home in 2 seconds. Toto 2, Toto 2. And Dorothy taps her heels and says, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And in a moment, she's back with her family, but now instead of wanting to run away from her troubles, she's filled with love and appreciation for her life, just as it is. What a tale of spiritual awakening. Conventional wisdom would have us forever searching outside ourselves for happiness, imagining that what we need is a change of circumstances. To be out of school, to be back in school, to be in a relationship, to be out of the relationship, to get that job, to be free of that job, to have the house all fixed up, so on, so on, and so forth. It's always one thing and another that keeps us from being happy. Dorothy finds, on behalf of us all, that it's not outward circumstances mainly that need changing, it's attitude and perception. Do you ever come to that realization? I remember one time I was riding my bike down the street and I noticed a modest, low-rise apartment complex. It was small, nondescript units lined up in rows, very sparse landscaping, kind of Spartan, you might say. And looking at it, the thought came into my mind, God, I would hate to be stuck living there. How depressing. And I noticed that thought, and it struck me upon a moment's reflection that actually, although I like my currently spacious and attractive living arrangement, the truth is, I could be perfectly happy living in a place like that. I could. And what a huge difference that perspective made. There was nothing inherently unhappy about the apartment complex. It was all a reflection of my mind. It's judging and demanding. Dorothy's experience teaches us to be less concerned about outward situations and instead find our freedom in an attitude of appreciation. In the Passover ritual, Jewish people repeatedly say, Daenu, meaning it would have been sufficient. One blessing after another is recounted, and each time the people say, Daenu, it would have been sufficient. And yet there was more. It would have been sufficient, and yet there was more, which is just the case in our lives. What a great practice that is, consciously thinking, it would have been sufficient. Instead of what we usually say is something like, well, yeah, but that's the minimum I would expect. What a good practice to return to the radical truth that fundamentally we are not entitled to anything. Not luxuries, certainly, but not even our health, our freedom, or life itself. Properly viewed, even much less fortunate circumstances than those in which we find ourselves would still be brimming with blessings. Daenu. But for many of us, on top of that, there's another level of neurosis. It's not my circumstances that are inadequate, it's me. My person. I'm dumb. I'm emotionally blocked. I'm timid and fearful. And I'm ashamed of that. I'm not okay as I am. Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion all think they would be okay if only they were different in some way. The great and powerful Oz plays right into that, demanding that they prove their worthiness by doing one simple task. But when what we're doing is trying to prove our worthiness, it's never going to be one simple task, is it? The deal is rigged from the outset. As long as the bombastic wizard is holding forth, we'll never be good enough. There's always going to be one more thing to prove. And when that is done, it will be immediately taken for granted, and something more will be demanded. Maybe then we will be okay. Now, it's a fine thing to be growing and maturing. It's a fine thing to be in therapy or just trying to be good, endeavoring to change things about ourselves. But it's important that we be clear. These changes are never going to make the difference between being okay and not being okay. They're not. Scarecrow did not actually get any smarter. He came to embrace the intelligence he did possess. His brokenness was made whole, or more precisely, he realized that wholeness was already there deep down. Now, what was it that enabled Dorothy and the gang to discover and experience their wholeness? Well, part of it was the experience of confronting their fears, getting out of their comfort zone, breaking their habits of dumbness, cowardice, emotional frozenness, and allowing the brain, courage, and heart in them to come forward. Fetching the broom was a kind of outward-bound outdoor adventure experience. It enabled them to get in touch with their latent capacities. And so on their second visit to the wizard, they weren't going to just meekly take his guff. But another essential part of their awakening was a critical insight. To me, the key moment in the entire story is when Toto pulls back the curtain. The prideful, fearful ego is bellowing, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." that voice inside each of us that is so full of pomp and bluster. It puts on quite a show, insisting that it is authoritative and must be obeyed and must not be questioned. But behind the curtain, our deeper, truer self longs to be found out. We fear, but yet also want others to see through our pretenses and our posturing. To see through to the soul that is who we really are. We want to be humbled and forgiven, to be seen and known and embraced just as we are, with our limitations, our failings and frailties. Deep in our hearts, we yearn to let go of trying to manipulate appearances and instead enter into truly sincere relationship. It was Toto, who was not taken in by everyone's drama of wanting to go home and get a brain and to be a great and powerful Oz and so forth. Toto pulled back the curtain, exposing the wizard, and that's what set everyone free. Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion all came into their fullness. Dorothy and the wizard get to go home. And it was all because the ruse was exposed. So long as the wizard was carrying on with his grandiosity and getting away with it, nobody was going anywhere. So, my friends, I urge you to get in touch with your inner Toto. Let that little puppy inside you, the one that's not intimidated by all the posturing and bluster, let that inner puppy reveal the tender and good-hearted, but also fearful and judgmental ego behind the curtain. Because after all, there's no place like home. So I invite you to enter into a meditation. Let us reflect together. Settle in. Let your breath rise and fall. Bring gentle attention to the rising and falling of the breath. Are there ways, are there times when you run away from home in reaction to the troubles in the world around you? Can you recall a time when, despite troubles, imperfections, and insecurities, you maintained serenity, open-heartedness, just as you are in this world, just as it is? Open-hearted, willing to live this life
enliven UUCS through pledges, time, and connections with one another. We contribute to the Salem community through donations to the Marion Polk Food Share. And each month, we share our Sunday donations with an organization that exemplifies our principles. For August, we are supporting Latinos Unidos Siempre, a nonprofit organization founded in 1996 by Salem Latinx youth. Its mission is to work towards the educational, cultural, social, and political development of Latino youth. This is done by empowering youth to take leadership roles in the community, to advocate for socio-political change, and through grassroots organizing to combat racist stereotyping and discrimination. Cash donations or checks made out to UUCS can be placed in the baskets right outside the door in the foyer. They're labeled as you leave the sanctuary. For the online viewing audience, visit the website, click on donate, and follow the instructions. Thank you so much for supporting this congregation and the wider community.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? Why, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Well, I do think they just sent us over the rainbow. Thank you so much. Before we extinguish the chalices, we transfer the flame to the Social Justice Lantern as a symbolic reminder of the love and hope we carry into the world. Thank you. All right, we are ready for some announcements. So, as you know, Sunday service will continue to be at 10:30, and registration will continue to be required. If you're not feeling well, as you know, COVID cases are climbing, sadly, so please stay home and watch in the comfort of your own home. We do have, well, a fellowship time today. After the service, please come into the fellowship hall. You can step out into the patio in the open air. It's a beautiful day, and visit with one another. Sadly, we don't have coffee or refreshments yet. Those will happen sometime in the fall, we hope. All right. What else do I need to say to you? Connections groups. These are delightful groups where you get to know a small group of people quite well and explore really fascinating, inspiring topics. And we encourage all of you to sign up if you feel moved to, and on the slide are the times that are available for you. So the deadline is the 22nd, not that far away. So let's see, what else? Oh, we very much need volunteers for Family Promise, which assists homeless families. They do a marvelous job, and because of the times, all you need to do is provide food, and we take it to, they're delivered to one location. You can go online and find the details for that, but please do, just out of curiosity, how many of you have volunteered for Family Promise? As it was, yeah, many. It's a wonderful way to contribute to helping people. This very, very good organization. And I think that is it. Other news items, it can be found online or in your weekly news update. Thank you very much.
Our closing hymn today is There Is More Love Somewhere. It's number 95 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere.
Please join hands in body or spirit, and let's say our closing words together. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.